G'day everyone, Steve here from the Parent Rebellion. Hope you're all having an amazing start to the week and as always, parenting to the best of your ability. Got a little bit of a tricky one today and as always, I'd love your feedback, but in particular with this one. So for those of you with young people, children, they're always our children, old enough to be applying for jobs, I'm going to ask you this question. And it's a little bit specific because it's for those of you who may have young people, kids, children living on the spectrum or living with ADHD, OCD, either of those or all of them. And my question is this: when it comes to the resume that is prepared either by them or by you or with your help, are you documenting, notifying, raising awareness that your young person is living with autism, ADHD, OCD, or a combination of all of them? And the reason I ask is because I'm seeing this a little bit more frequently now, to the point where it does raise the question. There appears to be a hesitation from parents that are helping their young people living with those conditions to document those things on resumes. And what's happening is these young people are turning up to interviews, they're getting to the interview stage, and they're getting knocked back each and every time. And I'm aware in a couple of situations where parents are becoming frustrated and can't understand why their kid keeps getting knocked back on job applications or doesn't get through the interview process. And I'm tipping, and I might be wrong, and I'm up for criticism here, but this is how I see it, that they are not, and there are a number of reasons, which I'll also touch on in a minute, but they're not outlining, documenting, divulging, whatever you want to call it, that their young person is living with these conditions. And what I think is happening is they're getting to the interviews and they're perhaps coming across as a little bit strange. And I know that sounds horrible, right? But I think that's ultimately what it is. There are certain dynamics associated with ASD, with ADHD, with OCD that I'm pretty sure the large majority of employers and society in general are aware of and happy to accept. But if they don't know about them, are they thinking that this young person might just be a little bit weird? And apart from the fact that I think it's important to let potential employers know so they can support and assist where it's needed, it's also, I think, I might be wrong, but I think it's an insurance liability if that young person has an injury at work and the employer wasn't made aware of these conditions and perhaps put them in a role that wasn't suited to their conditions, and therefore they get injured and the insurance claim is denied. Just another one of the little intricacies I think can occur as a result of failing to disclose this information. Now, the reasons I think people don't, and I'm aware that this is definitely one of them, is that they don't want their young person to be treated any differently. They don't want them to be, mocked or felt sorry for. And I get that. I really, really get that. But then to complain, what are you doing wrong in interviews? I don't understand. Well, this is where I'm coming from. If you're not letting these potential employers know that your young person is on the spectrum, has ADHD, OCD, and they walk into an interview and your young person shows signs that are attributed to these conditions, but they're not aware that they have these conditions, then it kind of leaves them thinking, maybe this person's not for us. So, in my opinion, I think it's really, really important that we put that information out there. I think we live in a world now where autism and ADHD and OCD and all those little things that a lot of people live with have never been more acceptable and supported. So I don't think there's any, I'm not going to say there's not a stigma at all, but I don't think there's a stigma from the majority. So I think to not be disclosing that information on a resume is actually detrimental to your young person. That's my opinion. Again, I'm open to criticism on that. And if anything, it's really harming their self-esteem when they keep applying for positions and getting knocked back, because they start to think, well, it's me, it must be me. And then parents become frustrated because it's like, well, what are you doing wrong? What are you doing in these interviews that you can't get a job? And I know that I have mentioned this and it's been ignored. And the process continues, and it will continue. And I'm not saying you won't jag a job by not disclosing the information, but I think it's honesty as well. I think it's dishonest when you know that you're not disclosing it because you think it's going to harm your young person's chances of getting a job, when it actually might improve their chances. I know employers like Coles in particular, Woolworths, these guys have a really high intake of people that are clearly living with these conditions and have disabilities. And to be clear, I don't classify ADHD, ASD, OCD. I don't classify those as disabilities. I classify them as superpowers. So don't go me on that one. But these guys do definitely employ and support people that have these kind of challenges in life. So I think while parents may think it's detrimental to include that information on a resume, I think it's actually detrimental not to. Again, I'd love your feedback. I'd love your opinion. I'd love to hear your personal experience. Again, I'm not here to be right or wrong. This is how it is, how I see it, my experience. But I think it really is harming them in the long run if we're not disclosing that information, because they're not going to get the support they need. They're not going to get the understanding they need, and they actually may be stigmatized as something else, just a weird cat, because people don't know that they're living with these conditions. So on top of that, as I said, the self-esteem gets blown out the window because they just can't get a job. They're just not winning, and they just think it's them, when it could just be something as simple as not putting that information in there for the potential employer. Let me know what you think. As always, keep parenting to the best of your ability, and we'll be back soon with another one. Toodles.